Meetings were a huge waste of time even before the pandemics, but now with virtual meetings it's getting even worse because so many people are talking on mute. In this video I'm going to share a simple 5-step process to improve and make your meetings really efficient and make right decisions. And stay until the end because I will share a simple trick on how to organize all your communications via meetings in a new and efficient way. First of all, you need to understand that meetings are not for sharing information or for discussions. You use meetings to make decisions, and creating an action plan is also a set of decisions. So, by default, the goal of each meeting is to make a decision. And that's why we're starting with step number 1, where you need to create an agenda for your meeting. So preparing an agenda for a meeting was a good practice before, but now it's a must. Otherwise your meetings drift away and it's a waste of time. The easiest way to get started is to open up a new email and start writing the topics for your meeting. And I suggest that you limit it to only 5 or less topics per meeting. Don't worry, we'll talk about large topics and how to deal with them in step number 2. The good thing is that you'll reuse this email to run a meeting and then it will become your meeting notes that you will send right at the end of the meeting. If you use something like Outlook or similar tool, it allows you to create meeting notes and meeting agenda right in the meeting invite, because it's all integrated and it's one of the best approaches. But if you use Gmail or something less robust for corporate communication, then you still can apply the same principles and use this agenda in the email approach. This leads us to step number 2. Here you need to analyze all the topics for the meeting. And I want you to consider this for a moment. Here you are alone, spending efforts and time to prepare for an efficient meeting. But if you don't spend this time, if you don't do this analysis, then on the meetings you will make the same decisions, but 10 or 5 or 15 people will be waiting for you to make this decision. So don't waste their time. Spend time for preparing the meeting. Okay, as I said, you don't want to share information and waste time on reading some specification or requirements right at the meeting. So your first consideration is to look through the topics and identify pieces of information that people can read or watch beforehand, before meeting, so they can come prepared and make educated decisions. You need to share this information in advance, but you also need to set clear expectations that they need to read or watch these materials, and therefore you need to give them enough time for that. Next, you need to identify what feedback you need from people to make an educated decision. And again, you need to set correct expectations that you want this person to analyze this part of the information or something else and provide you their best thoughts. Again, don't force people to make decisions on the fly. Give them some time in advance to prepare for this conversation. Based on the previous 2 points, you need to make the most important decision. Who should participate in your meeting? Never send an invite to the whole team or all stakeholders and make them make a decision. You should always keep in mind the cost of a decision on your project, and you can easily calculate it. For example, if you have 10 people on a meeting for 1 hour, you can multiply that on their average rate. For example, they have $30 per hour, and that leads that one decision costs you $300. So, how many such decisions do you make per day? Likewise, an hour spent on a meeting is the same hour which is not spent on creating project deliverables. And this way you make the efficient workday from 8 hours to 6, then to 4, and so on. And this leads us to the 3rd step, and you need to time box all your meetings. So based on the topics you selected and people you invited, you need to think, how much time do you need? Is it 15 minutes, 30 minutes or 60 minutes? Basically, I don't make meetings more than an hour. It's not an efficient investment of time. The best practice here is to make a time check 5 minutes before the end of the meeting. You need to consider whether you can make a decision on the topics in these 5 minutes or you need to continue discussion a bit later in another meeting, and you need to give time for people to analyze the information and feedback they collected. And it goes without saying that you should start the meeting on time and end it on time, because nowadays with virtual meetings they are stacked one after another, and if you delay your meeting and you end it 5 minutes later, then the person will need to get into another meeting 5 minutes later, and it will cascade to all other meetings. Now we're getting to the point where you need to actually lead the meeting. And previously in live situation you were in one room and it was easy to keep attention to the agenda of the meeting. But with virtual meetings you don't see what people do behind their screens. So what I found on practice is that the best way to keep their attention on the topics of the meeting is by sharing your screen and always showing the problem rather than just speaking about it. At the very least, you share the screen with your meeting notes and the topics that you are discussing, and you are pointing with your mouse on what topic we are talking about right now. And you make notes at once so people kind of need to track what's happening in the meeting. Likewise, if you discuss something like a product, a service, or a task, or project documentation, you should bring that up. Your picture should always change to keep the attention at what you are talking about. Moreover, I want you to engage people when you write the meeting notes. So you should say something, "Hey John, I'm putting you in charge of this point. Are you okay with this? Hey Peter, what do you think? What should we write here? So what's the action point for this topic?" And so on. You want to keep people engaged. All this leads us to the final step here, and it's a little secret. So you want to end your meeting a bit earlier than you planned, at least 5 minutes maybe. Because you want to send the meeting notes before the person jumps to another meeting. This way they will have time to prioritize the work that you assign to these people. Because otherwise, if they jump to another meeting, they will get other input and maybe it will be more important for them. They'll have to prioritize that work other than what you suggested. Yes, it's a slicky trick, but you do want people to take action in regards to your project rather than putting it on the back burners. Okay, as I promised, I'll share an insight from my practical experience on how to organize all your meetings across your whole project. But before that, if you enjoyed this video, give it a like, and if you haven't subscribed yet, do click that button as well. So the idea is simple. You need to create a hierarchy of meetings. And there are 3 major groups of meetings. You'll have one visionary meeting once a week maybe. If it's a big project, it might be once a month. It's a meeting where you set general priorities, where you discuss the overall performance of the project and the feedback from clients. Next, you will have daily sync-up meetings, just like the Scrum prescribes. And it shouldn't be longer than 30 minutes. You can invite either the whole team, or if you have a big team, you will work only with team leaders and group leaders. Here you want to ensure that each day each person works towards the goals that you set during a visionary meeting. Each day you discuss the progress on the tasks and the related challenges. And the main idea here is that you don't solve problems on these meetings. You highlight the problems and make a decision to set up another meeting with a small group of people where you will discuss specific problems. So, as you might have guessed, the last group of meetings is the problem-solving meetings. And ideally it should be one-on-one meetings, or with a minimum required amount of people to solve one problem. And here's a trick. You should be aware of all these meetings, but you don't have to participate in all of them. For sure, if you have time, you can jump on any of these meetings and see what's happening there. But ideally, you should delegate decision-making and responsibilities for the project deliverables to your people. They should be able to resolve most of the problems which are not related to project management and working with clients. As you know, you should always use the expert knowledge of your team members, and the best way to do this is by developing the feeling of ownership. So next, I recommend you to watch one of these videos where I share some leadership tricks. Just click on one of these videos and I'll meet you there. Bye bye.